Are you able to see me? We start into the next round. Today we'll start with legal, logical reasoning, okay? Because then we get less time for that. So, yes, a very good morning to all of you. So some inference you can draw from my voice, how I'm looking. Can you draw some inference? The inference chapter which we had studied. Anybody good at drawing inference? Yes. What is the inference you're drawing? Oh, thank you. Somebody said, yeah. No, I had a good sleep, but yes, somebody guessed it right. I'm not feeling well today. Perfect. So my energy is a bit down. So good, good. Nay, I am having a good sleep, but it's just that I'm a bit down with fever and having a bit cold cough today. Don't worry, I don't have corona as of now, so don't worry. Yeah, it's just a virus. Thank you for all your care. Okay, what we are going to do is, if we can, I would request all of you today, since I will, if you give me some rest to my voice and you speak a lot, then that would be a very advantageous situation for all of us, and then we can work on the problems. So what let's do today is you talk more and I talk less. Okay? Otherwise, I'm always talking more and you talk less. So today what we are going to do is I am going to talk less and you're going to talk more. Good? Fine? Great. So yes, so we did this logical reasoning aspect, and I'm going to take straight away to the chapters which we have not taken yet. So I'll start with let me see, cause and effect. Yes. So we took some problems on cause and effect. Now it's your turn to help me on the answers to the cause and effect. Okay. So question one, the prices of vegetables have been increased. So I am at page number 183 of the PDF, and this is what page number. Yes, 180 of the module. Okay. So you are going to tell me the answers to this question now. So the price of vegetables have been increased considerably during this summer. There is a tremendous increase in the temperature during the summer, thereby damaging. Yes. Now you did not tell me the messages in private. You can speak to the public at large so that people will also know what answers you are giving. Okay. So what is the answer to this question? Yes. Can we be quick? Cause and effect, yes, but what is the answer? B. Why do you think B is the answer? Smita, what is the relation? Like it is a common cause or it is a direct? What do you think? Or it is not related? What do you think? So you will not be able to speak, but you can chat definitely. Okay. So you will not be able to unmute. Common cause. Okay. So then moving on to the next. So do you find this easy? These questions are easy for you to understand. So that if it is easy, we'll take on the next thing. Okay, great. So I guess many of you are saying it's very easy. So I'll not spend more time on this. I'll just take one more. Okay. It is the aim of city's civic authority to get air pollution reduced by 20% in the next 2 months. The number of asthma cases in the city is constantly increasing. So what do you think? What is the answer? The reason increase in number of asthma must have alerted the authority. So this is an alert to take action to control air pollution that increase triggers the disease. So I guess this cause and effect is very easy to understand in terms of. Now I'm going to touch upon this coding aspect because there has been always a complaint that coding is a very difficult subject. Now for this, it is better if you take a paper and pen. Oh, it is not great. If not, then we can solve. You can solve these problems at home, by the way. But what is important over here is you understand this forward order position and backward order position. So basically, for the students who have not understood the coding aspect, let me just tell you briefly so that you can solve the problems at home. And then, yeah, it's page number 186 of the PDF. Okay. So this is the, if you see this table is a very important table for you to understand because there is a forward order position. So number, if you see, it is a number which is being assigned and a backward position number is being assigned. So if we take alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, then it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and accordingly. So if you see, then the letter I alphabet, it has the forward order position as 9 and a backward order position of 18. So here what happens is you will have to calculate it accordingly, that what is the position order and if it is taking from a backward perspective or it is taking from a forward perspective. So if you see this Z, X, Y, okay. So if you see Z, X, Z, Y, X, W as coded as A, B, C, D, then S, T, U, V is coded as what? So here is Z is equal to A, Y is B, X is C, and W is D. So then you will have to rule. So take this from a number. So there is a number game involved as well as the alphabet involved. So accordingly, how it is positioned, what is the correlation? Like if you see here, there is a math which is involved. So you will have to calculate it if it is forward one letter or it is backward one letter. Accordingly, you will have to calculate it. So this exercises of coding can be best solved if you have this coding in front of you. So the moment you have this in front of you, this coding, this becomes very easy for you and you don't have to remember. And if you solve more and more, it will be easy for you to kind of remember that what is the value of j if it is forward 10 and backward 17. So that way it is all a number game which comes into picture, and the moment you have this numbers and the backward and forward numbering becomes easy, then it becomes very easy for you to solve, because then you can just, oh, it is -1 or it is +1 or +2, and how the order is basically formed. So whenever you're solving this, it is better if you have this order of English alphabet in front of you and then you solve this. So it becomes very easy for you to solve generally the questions. Now we will not be able to solve because if you write, then only you'll be able to solve. Okay. So this was about coding. Now what I would request is you solve these problems at home, because like I told you, one problem will take minimum 15 minutes initially for you to solve, because till the time you get you're used to these problems, and then later you can solve it very easily. So you solve at home, and if you have any difficulty, let me know in the class session so we can take it. Okay. So this was about coding. Then I'm going to move to deriving conclusion of passages. We have already taken, like I told you, if we read the passages in the class, our half an hour will go in the same. So very difficult for us to take this in the class. But again, it is about deriving conclusions. That what conclusions are you drawing? So in the exam, try to read that passage at least twice, thrice if you are not able to understand what they are trying to say. so that once you understand what is the context all about, what is the conclusion, try reading newspapers, try reading news items. See, when you read news, what happens is they give a heading to that effect. That is nothing less or what? A conclusion drawn of what the news item is all about. So once if you read just a headline, oh, the corona virus cases are increasing in India. This is a headline or this is a conclusion drawn. And then you read that okay, this is all about how the people are not taking care, or how the things have moved, or what is happening with the virus, and then you come with a conclusion, and that is how you see the title. So generally, if you see, try reading a lot, so then it becomes easy for you to kind of take this conclusions also easy. Now we are going to move to another chapter today. So drawing inference we have already seen, and as I saw at the beginning of the class, all of you are very great at drawing inference. You immediately drawn conclusion and inference about what I am today. Like I'm not feeling well, and I was very happy that you're great at drawing inferences. Uh, then we're going to go to another chapter today. This is number test. Okay, number test is also, this is again what WhatsApps you get and how things you get. It is like 2, 1, 1/2, and 1/4. Again, this is a math exercise which you will have to follow. If you see this, what is 53, 53, 40, 40, 27, 27, then what should be the number should come next? Yes, anybody can answer? Yes, anybody can answer? So what is the subtraction? So they have subtracted, right? Yes. So that's how it is easy for you yes, they have subtracted 13. So I'm not concentrating too much on all this, because you will be able to understand the moment you see it. And the thing is, it is not the same question you're going to get into the exam as well. So you will have to practice more. Now see, 3, 4, 7, 8, 11, 12. What should be the number next? What do you think? Look at this series 3, 4, 7, 11, 12. Yes. Option D 15. Why? Because it is mentioned over there. Huh? It is 15 is mentioned. Yes, it's very simple. It's very simple. Perfect. You have all of you are very perfect in this, and I'm happy. Now we'll take sequences and we'll take this sequence thing. Okay. Let's take this sequence in series. Now there can be with a constant difference, that is 1, 5, 9, 13. So there is a constant difference, that is plus 4. So this is a series with constant difference. Then series with an increasing difference. So in this type, the difference between two consecutive terms keep on increasing as we move forward in a series. So 1, 2, 4, 7, 11, 16. Okay, this is how it is. So we observe what? That the series is increasing with a difference of plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4. So increasing order, the numbers are getting. Then series with a decreasing difference. What is decreasing? 16, 11, 7. So what is the deduction, which is subtraction is 16 minus 11 is what? 5. 11 minus 5 is what? 7. Okay, likewise. So here, if it is minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2. That is why, so we will be obtaining our number by subtracting 1 from 2, which gives us 1. Okay, I'm fast, but the things are very easy to understand. If you just concentrate, it will be easy. Okay. Yes, I'm going to take legal as well. Don't worry. But since we sometimes don't get time for logical reasoning, I'm just spending it today at the beginning of the class. Then this is squares and cubes series. So I hope you all must be good at math for that matter. This is simple math which is going to be affected. So the moment you have simple math, it will be easy. So 1, 9, 25, 49. So what? This is depending upon the cubes and squares. Yes, 3 cube, 2 cube, likewise, 2 square. then combination of different operations, and miscellaneous series. So this is how generally the number games are going to make a difference. It will be either a series kind of thing which is given to you, and then it will be like either a subtraction or an odd number, cubes. So you will have to just identify what is the exact pattern of that numbers which is given. Okay. Then miscellaneous series, statements and assumptions. So again, this is a very easy subject for you to understand. What is statement and what is assumption? And I'll help you with an example. We'll take this. Okay. Eating a lot makes you lose weight. Rahul has lost weight. Rahul eats a lot. This goes with against the knowledge that eating a lot leads to obesity. But within the limits of logical reasoning, this is a valid argument. So, statement. Statement is what? Is either a meaningful declarative statement that is either true or false, or that which is a true or false. Is a mortal. Delhi is the capital city of India. A statement is a difference from sentence. A sentence is one form of statement. Okay, this is, see, if I start you explaining this, this will be very difficult for you to understand. So the moment we solve the problems related to this becomes very easy because these are all the things which we generally use. State take you to the example directly and you will feel, oh ma'am, this is very easy. Okay, so let me take an example. Everybody, I'm here on page 214. Everybody loves reading adventure stories. Now, what is the assumptions? Adventure stories are the only reading material. Nobody loves reading any other material. So, this is one thing. Okay, this is not a problem. We'll take this. This will become easy for you. You are hereby appointed as programmer with a probation period of 1 year, and your performance will be reviewed at the end of the period of for confirmation. A line in the appointment letter. Now, what are the assumptions? The performance of individual is generally not known at the time of appointment offer. Generally, an individual tries to prove his worth in the probation period. Okay, so now concentrate on the statement which is given. What is the statement? You are hereby appointed as programmer with a probation period of 1 year, and your performance will be reviewed at the end of the period for confirmation. So this is what a line in an appointment letter. So for example, I am appointed as an employee in a company, and this is being stated in my appointment letter. Now, what are the assumptions over here which have been mentioned and what we have to see? The performance of an individual generally is not known at the time of appointment letter of offer. Generally, an individual tries to prove his worth in the probation period. Now, what are the, whether, can we go just one by one? Only assumption one is implicit. So what is implicit? Implicit means it is implied. Okay. Implicit means it is kind of implied. What you read in the sentence, it is implied. It already means that. Okay. So only assumption two is implicit. Either one or either two is implicit. So whether this both the sentences are implied in the say, can you say that yes, this is already what is meant by this. So if I say the performance of an individual is not known, which is a obvious, that's why you have probation. So isn't it an implied meaning out of this? Now why this is important? Because as a legal students, you may be having contracts in front of you. This is a typical contract of employment. An appointment letter is obviously a contract of employment, right? Now what is, somebody can come to you as a legal, if you are a CS of a particular organization, somebody can come to you and say, help me with this contract, and this is a situation in front of you. So you are going to read the contract and then say, oh, this is already mentioned in the contract. This is what it is meant by. Now it is implied out of it. Exactly, this is what is being mentioned here. Why you have a probation period? Because you have to prove your performance, that whether you are capable of that a given position or not, right? And this is one assumption out of it. And the second is you don't know how your performance will be at the time of appointment. When the appointment is being done, you don't know that how your performance will be. And the second is the person will try to prove his worth, that yes, I'm worthy for this particular appointment, the designation which I have earned, say for example, a company secretary. Yes, I'm worth the position which for which I'm hired. So that's why the sentence 1 and 2 both are implied, both are implicit in the statement. Okay, both are implicit in the statement, and that's why answer E is correct. Both 1 and 2 are implicit. Okay, so this is what it is. Now we'll take second thing and you are going to tell the answer. Okay, yes, it is desirable to put the child in the school at the age of 5 or so. Assumptions: at the age the child reaches the appropriate level of development and is ready to learn. The schools do not admit children after 6 years of age. So what do you think? What is the answer? Yes? Great. Answer A. Why? Only assumption 1 is implicit. So at the age, at that 5 years of age, the child reaches appropriate level of development and is ready to learn. And that's why answer is option A, because only assumption 1 is implied. It doesn't say that schools don't admit it at 6 years of age. Okay, it doesn't say that way, and that's why answer A is the option A is the valid reason. Yes, now we'll go. I hope this is clear to you. Okay, great. Now we'll go to another one. This is also a very easy. Yes, I know legal aptitude is also very important, but since we have to spend some time on logical reasoning as well, I want you to take this. Okay, I'll take this and then we'll move on to Contract Act. Now, this is again a very easy thing for you to measurements and instruments. Okay, so the page number is 223 of the PDF and 221 of your module. Okay, so this is again thermometer, quantity and unit, whether they'll be give you in kilogram and something in minutes, then what is the thing, then selection of groups, that is singer, chorus, male and female. So we'll see examples. Mumbai, Maharashtra. Ahmedabad, yes, answer me. Mumbai, Maharashtra. Yes, perfect. So this is again goes to your GK, general knowledge. If you don't know what is the capital of Gujarat, then of course you're at a problem, which I or you neither can't help. Okay, so this is what it is. Then doctor, nurse, follower. Yes, doctor, nurse, follower, leader. Perfect. Moon, satellite, earth. Moon, satellite, earth. Earth what? Planet? Yes, thank you. Clock time, thermometer. Thermometer what? Yes. Yes, temperature, which I'm going to do after the class gets over. I'm going to check my temperature, body temperature, with the help of thermometer. Right. Sound, muffled. Then, which is the correct pair? Moisture, humid. Yes. Which is the correct pair? Color faded because it is mentioned over here. What is the reason? Yes, you're right. It is B, but what is the reason I'm asking? Disappeared. Color gets faded. Okay. So sound, we you see, right? You tell me, ma'am, your voice is not clear. There is some background music. There is some background somebody's doing something like that. So this is sound muffled, color faded. That's why it is faded color because it is not right. Okay. Then knowledge, ignorance. What else? Yes. Yes, breath suffocation. Perfect. So this is see if you see these questions are very easy to understand, and sometimes you may feel why I'm not so much taking these questions because these are very easy questions and you can solve it on your own. Yes, now we'll take one more. Now you get this. The following orders or in the logical order: elbow, wrist, shoulder, palm, finger. I guess this is a very LKG, lower KG exams questions, and I guess all of you are very easy for you to understand. You will have to go by wrist, palm, finger, palm, and likewise. So the order you will have to. Yes, it's very easy to answer. Now we'll take this and then I will jump to the other chapter, or that is legal aptitude. Okay. The mobile manufacturing companies have increased the prices of smartphones. The government has reset duty on the smartphones. So, what is the answer? Now, this is about cause and effect. Yes. Why? Why A is the answer? Yes, A answer is correct because it is mentioned in the module. Cause and effect, yes. So if you see, this is a cause and this is an effect. What is an effect? The mobile manufacturing companies have increased the prices. The government has recently increased the duty on smartphone. So this is a cause and this is an effect. So because the government has increased the prices, the mobile manufacturing have increased the prices because obviously they can't lose their profit. So answer A, statement 2 is the cause and statement 1 is the effect. Yes. Now we'll go to the next. We'll see if we can take. So I hope this is easy for you to understand. Yes. Perfect. Great. Yes, relation puzzles is something you will have to really work upon if you're bad at relations, okay? Like if you don't understand chacha ki chachi ke bhatija and all those you don't understand, then you are definitely in a soup, okay? So what you can do and even how I solve my questions in for relations and puzzles is you can imagine your relations, right? Like for example, my sister, so I can imagine my sister, okay, then I can correlate and you can put a name to it. If you have a relation likewise, like for example, if I have a sister, then I can put my sister, okay, she is my sister, then uske ye uska wo, that way you can just build the relation and then you can find are ye to she is my brother or he is my sister, she is my sister or he is my brother, likewise you can define. So relation puzzles, things will become easy if you put a name to it and then you draw it. Acha, huh? That will become very easy for you to understand and then you can easily derive because then when you put a name of your relation, then it becomes easy. Acha, iska ye mere chachi ka beta will become what? My cousin. So likewise. So that way it will become easy for you. Alphabet test is again easy. Words in alphabetical order. Again, this is something very easy. Let me see. So what you are going to do is you're going to solve the questions from page number 230 of the module. Okay, page 230 of the module, you're going to solve the questions. Analogy is also very easy. Milk, curd, milk, shoe. Yes, what can be the analogy? Analogy means it is similar. Okay, I say I give you an analogy so you understand. कि अच्छा ये what is the correlation between two things? What is if curd is to milk? It's like if student is to teacher, then what it is for other way. Okay, so that way it is analogy drawn from one what is given to you versus. So what can be the analogy? I'll give you a. Okay, just help me. If holding is equal to subsidiary, what will be the analogy? Yes, you remember holding subsidiary which we had studied. What would be the analogy? Parent is child. Perfect. 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 Great. Great. So holding is to subsidiary, then parent is equal to child. Perfect. So this is what the analogy is. So then ABC is to ZYX. What is CBA? What is CBA? Yes, anybody? XYZ. Perfect. So I guess this is again very easy for you to understand. Then James Watt invented the steam engine. This assertion and reason. James Watt invented the steam engine. What is the reason? It was invented to pump out the water from the flooded mines. Now, what do you think? Why? Why is A the correct answer? Because it is mentioned in the module, ma'am. Don't ask me now and then. Is that the what you're going to tell me? Yes. What is the answer? The need of self-working engine to pump out of the water from the flood mines led James Watt to invent the steam engine. That is the reason why we have this answer A, which is right. So this is how this is again blood relations what we discussed. If somebody is not good at blood relations, please have a look at this and then solve these problems. That what is who is my aunt, because in your mother tongue the relations would be different in terms of you may have, like for example in Marathi we have a different name for my cousin, like we say it is maternal, the what is seen here a maternal aunt we say, or in Hindi we say mausi, right? And for paternal aunt we say chachi. So these two are different. See, and chachi are different for us. Yeah, bua is again different for us. But in English, they don't have like this, that this is Mausi, this is bua, this is chachi, this is chacha. All are uncles and all are aunts. So that way you have to say this is my maternal aunt and this is my paternal. Then grandfather, grandmother, we say nana, nani or dada, dadi in Hindi. But again, all are grandfather and grandmothers when it comes to but in specific, obviously, grandfather and maternal grandmother. So if you see what they have shown here is grandfather, grandmother. But if it is your mother's mom and dad, then it is maternal grandfather and grandmother. If it is your mother's side, they have specifically mentioned it is maternal uncle and maternal aunt. Okay, so you have to be very specific and then you can draw your conclusions as well with respect to the problem given. So you can solve this again, sample questions 237 page number 237 page number. Okay, so this is what you have to solve, again very easy for you to understand. Then let me see if I can take some more. Okay. So here I'm going to stop because I know people are now desperately asking me to take legal aptitude, and again I would love to take that as well. So uh, solve these problems at home. These are not very difficult problems at all. Whatever you find that, okay, ma'am, I'm not able to solve a particular question or a particular series, just let me know. And to the extent possible, how much I can take in class, I will, okay? And then we can take it ahead. So now you can solve all these problems. These are very simple problems. Sometimes if you read the text, it is difficult, but if you start solving the problems, like if you read the theory of inference, it will be very difficult. But the moment you solve the problems for inference, it becomes very easy. Okay. Now I'm all of yours favorite legal aptitude, but just be careful that uh, legal aptitude and logical reasoning both are almost 50-50 marks. Okay, so just don't concentrate on legal aptitude and not concentrate on logical reasoning. I hope you understand, right? Okay, we'll see we'll take contract now. Okay, page 46, is that so? Okay, great. So we took in the last lecture uh, consideration we finished. Okay. Now today we are going to see what are the flaws in the contract. Now, okay, let's concentrate on contract. Now you will be asking me all the logical reasoning questions and I'll get diverted. Okay. So let's now contract. Okay. There may be circumstances under which a contract made under this rule may be still bad because there is a flaw, that is an error somewhere. As a result of such flaw, the apparent agreement is not a real agreement. So the agreement, what are these? Uh, we'll see now void agreements. So what are flaws we are going to see, and what are the problems in the flaws? Like for example, if contract with a minor, that is, like I said, if it is a contract which has been entered with a person who is age 12, what is the repercussions? If it is a contract which is put at a gunpoint and then signed, then what is the repercussions or what are the consequences of it? It is page number 47 of the PDF. So what is the remedy for that? So A, it will be treated, it is a void contract. What is a void contract? So there is a legal phrase which is being used as void ab initio. What is ab initio? At the beginning itself, it is a void contract. So say for example, if I say that I entered into a contract with a 2-year kind of a person. Is it a contract? Can it be a contract? You say it's no, it cannot be a contract with a 2-year-old kid. No, it cannot be a contract. The reason being it is void ab initio because he has not entered into majority. He is not a major person. So yes, Mohori Bibi versus Dharmdas goes perfect. So it is a void contract. Then the law, there can be some contracts which can be voidable. Now what is voidable? There is a difference between voidable and void contract. What is voidable? Voidable means there is an option given by the other party that, okay, fine, there is a problem in the contract, but do you want to person wants to continue? Yes, it will continue. If the other person don't want to continue, it will not get continued. So say for example, certain contracts which we are going to see that these can be voidable, means an option given. So if you see what are voidable contracts, option of getting out of this bargain. So it is an legal option at the person to either continue the contract or not continue the contract. So this is an option. Void means no, it is it cannot be a contract, and voidable means. And what is the party at fault may be compelled to pay damages. So this is thirdly, there is a flaw, there is a problem in the agreement. So either of this can be possible. Now we're going to see what is a void agreement. A void agreement is one which is destitute of all legal effects. So it cannot be enforced and confers no rights on either party. So rights which are being provided, because we are saying it is a void contract, it cannot be enforceable, it cannot have any rights in the contract. So it's a contradiction itself, right? When we say void contract, it is a contradiction in itself, because the moment you say it is a contract, it should have all the essential features. Section 10 comes into picture, right? All the ingredients which we saw of an essential contract. But void and contract are both contradictory words. Okay, void because you cannot have any liabilities, because say for example, somebody forged my signature and entered into a contract. Whether this and you say, ma'am, see, this is a check, your name is there in it, Deepti Dole. You see a check written by you, signed by you. Now give me 10 lakh rupees. And I say, when did I sign this check? I don't know. This is not my signature. So what is happening? I don't know what is the signature, who has signed, where that I have issued a check like this, because it is not my signature. So what happens? We'll see that. It is a void contract or a voidable. You have to tell me at the end of this sessions. Okay. So according to section 2J of the Indian Contract Act, a contract which ceases to be enforceable by law becomes void when it ceases to be enforceable. So void means lack of existence or a nullity. You cannot have this contract enforced by law, and that's what we've seen as a definition of contract, right? It is an agreement which is enforceable by law. So the moment you say it is not enforceable, it is not a contract at all. Now what are illegal? So that's what void contract means, and voidable is either party is given an option whether you want to continue, whether you don't want to continue. So if the consent of the party is not free, he is entitled to avoid that contract, means an option is given whether you want to continue that contract or you don't want to continue. So here the check which I told you, now tell me whether I can continue with the contract if I want, or I say no, I'm not going to issue this check because somebody has forged my signature. Yes, so it becomes voidable, because I may say, okay, fine, I'll pay you. It's fine, it's not my signature, but I'll pay you. It is an option at me whether I want to continue or I don't want to continue, because my signature, there is no consent. Now there can also be two arguments to this, that there is no consent at all. Forget about consent, whether it is by fraud or it is by coercion or it is by anti-influence. There is no consent at all. Okay, so there can be two arguments. Like I am known that, say for example, my somebody relative has forged a signature. I know about it, and I know it is not my free consent to this. Okay, so there is a free consent involved. Then we are going to see illegal agreements. Now, what are these illegal agreements? An agreement which is like the void agreement has no legal effect. So flaws contract or vices of contract. Now these are, we are going to see everything in detail. The chief flaws in contract are incapacity, is what we have studied. Indian Contract Act, a major person has to do. So minors in law persons are either natural or artificial. Who are artificial persons? Yes, can you tell me? Yes, perfect. LLPs, companies, body corporates are artificial persons. Perfect. So can they enter into contract? Yes, can they enter? Yes, absolutely. They can enter into a contract. Now, natural persons can, of course, have the incapacity. So, the general rule is all natural persons have full capacity to make the binding contract. But exceptions are minors, lunatic person disqualified from contracting by any law which they are subject to. So these persons are not competent to contract. So section 11, every person is competent to contract who has attained the age of majority. A valid agreement requires both parties should understand the legal implications of their conduct. Thus, both must have a mature mind. So, obviously, if I say a contract with a kid, now you say, ma'am, what, ma'am? Is the kid going to understand that what he is signing? He doesn't know what is a check. He doesn't know what is there. How can he enter into a contract? So, similarly, they are not having a reasonable mind, whether they are not understanding, they are not capable of understanding the rights and obligations which are going to arise out of that contract. And that's why this persons cannot be said to be a competent person. Okay, this is what. Now there is a lunatics agreement as well. So a person of unsound mind is a lunatic. People are asking me in the chat what is lunatic, and that's what it is. So a person of unsound mind is a lunatic. This is to say for the purpose making a person is of unsound mind if at the time when he makes a contract is incapable of understanding it and forming a rational judgment. So as I'm telling you, that in order a person should be entering into a contract, he must have a knowledge that what he's signing is, what are the obligations, what are the responsibilities, what are the rights, and then only he is said to be a reasonable mind person, ideally. And that's why lunatics are people of unsound mind, so they are not capable of taking these decisions. And that's why any contract entered with a lunatic will obviously, there will be a flaw in the contract. Now, there can be a flaw by way of a consent. Now, we have seen there should be free, genuine consent for a particular contract, right? Now, this is again, you are very familiar with this, that how consent is not free, whether it is by willful misrepresentation or fraud. Now, we understand what fraud is. I don't think any one of you is not able to understand what a fraud is. It includes any of the following actions. Now, I'm selling a land, but I know that land is not an agricultural land, and I write it in the contract that this is an agricultural land. Now, this is a fraud. That I know this is not a land which is an agricultural land, but I am selling that land as a agricultural land. So that becomes a fraud on the other party. The active concealment of a fact. So this is a concealment. I know it is not an agricultural land, but I'm selling it. So there is an active concealment of the fraud, of the fact, sorry. A promise made without intention of performing it. So whether if I enter into a contract saying I'll sell you 1000 mangoes, but I don't have any mangoes with me. I know that I don't have mangoes and I'm not going to get any mangoes, but I enter into a contract because I know I'm not going to give that person the mangoes, right? I'm just taking the money and I'm going to run away. So here what's going to happen is uh, a promise made without intention of performing it. So I'm making a promise, but the intention is that I'm not intending, like I'm not willing to perform that. So fraud is an untrue statement made knowingly or without belief in its truth, or recklessly, carelessly, whether it be true or false, with an intention to deceive. So, the chief ingredients of a fraud are a false representation or assertion. So, this false word is a very important word, false. I know it is not true, but I'm making a representation. Okay, I like I told you the agricultural land. I know it is not an agricultural land, but I'm making it an assertion. It is a fraud of a fact and not mere opinion. It has to be of a fact. Now there can be opinion. So opinion is something say. Now, for example, doctors give me an opinion that you are having a flu, a simple viral flu. This is an opinion. Okay, this is an opinion. But fact is what? Fact is a clear presence of a particular thing. It is not subject to opinion. Now, I am having a temperature, right? It is a fact that I am having a high temperature. Now, opinion can be that whether I'm having a viral flu or whether I'm an opinion. So, fact, it should be of a fact and not of opinion. Okay, you get a difference between both. Fact is a present state of action of things. Now, made with an intention. So, intention should be to deceive upon and acted upon. Now, I am selling you, say for example, I'm giving you a mangoes, uh, one petty of mangoes, and I'm saying you that take this mangoes. I'm making you a representation. What? That these mangoes are great. This is a representation of fact that this is a mangoes box made with an intention that you act upon. Because and what I'm going to do is the above mangoes are good and the below mangoes are all rotten. Whereas I'm saying this is a great mangoes box which I'm going to sell you. So here I'm making a representation. This is a fact that these made with an intention that it should be acted upon so that you're going to buy mangoes from me. The representation must have actually induced the other party to enter into contract. Now, seeing the top layer of mangoes, you believe that this is our great mangoes and you act upon it. That is, you purchase the mangoes from me. The parties deceived must there be indemnified. So, you took the mangoes from me, assuming these are great mangoes, but after you saw that these are all rotten mangoes below. So I made a false representation to you by saying these are all good mangoes. You take it, these are very absolutely brilliant. And it was of a fact with an intention. I know these are great mangoes. These are rotten mangoes below and great mangoes only at the top layer. So I'm knowing that these are rotten mangoes and I'm selling it. Now, if I didn't know about the fact that the mangoes are rotten, it's a different. It's not with an intention. Okay. That's why is what is also called as there should be mens rea. And if you see in the legal dictions and the legal phrases which are there, you will see this. Mens rea means guilty mind. Yes, guilty mind is very important over here. Fraud. In order to prove fraud, like Vijay Mallya, right? He knew he's not going to pay the banker's loan. Mr. Ramalinga Raju, have you heard about him? Anybody heard about Mr. Ramalinga Raju? No? Yes, Satyam case. Perfect. He knew that he is making a fraud. He is not, basically, there is no assets, there are issues. He knew that, but still he made a fraud. So that is what is called fraud. When knowingly you make representations, that's what fraud. Yes, Nirav Modi. We have got thousands of examples. So this is what fraud is. Now here is very important. Mere silence as to facts like to affect willingness of a person to enter into a contract is not fraud unless silence is in itself equivalent to speech or where it is a duty of the person keeping silent to speak. Cases of contracts, uberime fidei. So this is a very important principle which we are now going to study. These kind of contracts require utmost there is a special duty. Okay, there's a special duty of good faith to disclose all the material information. Okay, this is a contract which imposes that there is an utmost duty of good faith to disclose all the important material information. Now, what are these contracts? Contracts of insurance. Contracts of insurance. So, if you see, that's why whenever you are buying a health insurance, okay, okay, just ignore my spelling. Health insurance, why they ask you to disclose whether you have got any disease, whether you were suffering from all, because there is a there the contracts called contracts uberemi fidei, meaning you have to disclose, you can't accept anything lesser in it. And then if you don't disclose, then obviously you're not getting the insurance, because they say, oh, this was a disease which you did not which you concealed, and that's why you're not getting health insurance. Okay. Yes. Then contract of sale of land, company prospectus. Yes, company prospectus are, again, these are the, if you have made a misstatement, a false statement in that, there is an utmost care involved, because there is a public funds involved in it. So when you're collecting money from public, you cannot be saying that, oh, I've missed this, oh, I forgot this. There is an utmost duty of faith, good faith. So anything, and that's why if you see any misstatements in the prospectus, any false statements in the prospectus, will put you under behind bars, because there is a money which you're taking from public, the public is going to money, and that's why there is an utmost good faith which is required. And that's why, if not if you don't disclose particular things, then you are definitely in soup. Okay. Yes, false disclosures will put you behind bars. Contract for the sale of land. Vendors is under a duty to purchaser to show good title to the land he has contracted to sell. And contracts of family arrangement. So whenever there are family arrangements involved, you cannot conceal, you cannot say, oh, I just slipped out of mind, or it was not intentional, because that doesn't help, because these are contracts of what? Tell me. Uberime fidei. These are the contracts, because requires utmost faith. And this is also a FAQ for you. This may also come as an FAQ, okay? Coercion, I guess this is very simple to understand. Putting at gunpoint at somebody, committing or threatening, if you don't pay, I'll kill your son, like this. This is a threat. I'll kill your this. I'll do some damage to your goods. I will do damage to your crop. So all this is coercion. Yes. So anything which is coming under Indian Penal Code, it becomes a coercion, a threat. Undue influence. Undue influence is a contract is said to be produced when there is a relation subsists, where there is a dominant position and the use of it to obtain an unfair advantage. So, for example, in case of a son and a father, it might be a case, again, it is all situational, yes, that the parent is saying something under, it is a major person, of course, but there is an undue influence which the can be said to have, or a employee employer. You can't go, right? The a boss is in a dominant position and you have to do it, despite you may want to do it or not. Yes, teacher student, absolutely. So these are the relations where there is an undue influence. You have to listen, right? You don't have a choice, and the other person is position. So the other person might have a lesser chance that, oh, I how can I say no, or how can I not do, right? So in a boss and a subordinate, yes, doctor, patient, perfect. So you have to do. You can't say no to that person, and you have to do it. So that becomes an undue influence. Now we are going to see what is the legality of object. Now there can be certain objects which are not legal. Now what are this? Forbidden by law. It is of nature, if it's permitted, would defeat the provision of law, is fraudulent, involves, implies injury to the person, the court regards it as immoral or opposed to public policy. Now, forbidden by law. Okay. Now, for example, there is, say tomorrow, that tobacco is banned in India. I hope it should, but it is not, unfortunately, because people spit here and there is a coronavirus which is going to be further spread. So, if tomorrow tobacco is said that no, it's banned, you cannot sell, buy tobacco in India, and if such a contract is being entered, is it a void contract? The answer may be yes, because it is forbidden by law. The law says you cannot buy or purchase tobacco. If that is the law and you are entering into a contract, even having everything, but it is forbidden by law. Okay, now you get what is forbidden by law? Is of such nature that if permitted would defeat the provisions of law. So it is again a similar kind of thing. Is fraudulent, you have understood. Involves or implies injury to the person or property of another. Again, if you don't do this, like A giving a supari to B to kill somebody, right? Now what here? It is against public policy, right? To kill somebody. Yes, bribe is also one of the example. Plus, to kill somebody is against public policy, right? So this is what object itself is wrong. So you say, oh ma'am, but two are major persons, there is a consideration involved, but giving a supari to kill somebody is an object itself is a wrong object, right? So that's why even though all the essentials of contract are there, you cannot say that it is a contract, or you cannot enforce contract as well, because the object of that contract itself is prohibited. It is against public policy, it is immoral. Okay, now we are going to see what are void and illegal contracts. I guess we've seen what are void contracts. uh, Consequences of illegal agreements: all illegal agreements is entirely void. Then, of course, money paid or property under an illegal agreement cannot be recovered. So, the same Supari example, to kill somebody, I told you, you cannot recover, right? The person cannot go and enforce, oh, I killed that person, he's not paying me the money now. You can't enforce, because the agreement itself is illegal. So, then we are going to see agreements which are void or to public policy. Again, yes, so agreements may offend public policy by tending. So, for example, India is at war with Pakistan. Example, I'm just giving an example. Don't quote me. Ma'am said that India is at war at Pakistan. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. So, if, for example, India is at war with Pakistan, a declared war, okay, a war is when it is a declared war. That yes. So here, if there is a contract with a Indian party and a Pakistani party or a Pakistani person, then it will be what? An opposed to public policy. Because A, here our soldiers are battling there, and you are entering into a contract with a person of Pakistan origin. So here it becomes a contract which is opposed to public policy. Okay, so you get it. So that's what is contract with public policy. Now there are examples which are being mentioned over here, what are opposed to public policy. So say, for example, agreement in restraint of parental right. So just to avoid custody, deprives himself, okay, I'll pay you so and so, then you have to lose the custody of the child, is again not again. There are so many examples, but these are few which are being quoted. Agreement in restraint of marriage, that, oh, I'll give you 10 lakh of rupees if you don't marry B. This is a contract which is restraint in marriage, and it is against public policy. Marriage brokerage or brokerage agreement, okay, that this is a brokerage. So this is again against public policy. Agreement in restraint of trade, that if you don't take this kind of, so there is a section in the Indian Contract Act which talks about agreement in restraint of trade, where an agreement is made to seek restriction a person from exercising a trade or profession, that you should not practice as a doctor for 15 years and I will pay you so and so money. If that is being, you cannot say this contract to be established because it is in restraint of trade. Okay. Wagering agreements. Now we are going to see what is wagering agreements. Now this is a very important. So wager is what? It is a bet. Betting, you must have heard about betting. So wager is betting. Wagering agreements are nothing but ordinary betting agreements. So if England wins, you get 100 rupees. If England loses, likewise. So that is what I'm sure all of you are aware of betting, because cricket and betting has been always into discussion and likewise. So you know what is betting. So betting, what is the thing? The essence of gaming and wagering is that one party is to win and the other party is to lose at a future event. So that is what is called as betting and wagering. Wagering agreements are nothing but ordinarily betting agreements. Then, of course, what we are going to see is wagering agreements are obviously void in India, except Mumbai. Wagering agreements are void. In Mumbai, wagering agreements have been declared illegal by Avoiding Wagers Amendment Act 1865. Therefore, in Mumbai, a wagering agreement being illegal is void not only between the immediate parties but taints and renders void all collateral agreements to it. Yes. So A bets with B and loses, applies to C for loan, who pays B in settlement of A's losses. C cannot recover because this is money paid under respect of wagering transaction, which is illegal in Mumbai. So that's what wagering contracts are. Now I'll go to void agreements. I guess we have seen this. Minor agreement, mistake of fact, agreement which consideration is unlawful. So this is a gist of what we have discussed. What are void agreements? And these are the gist of what are when contracts become void. So you can read this. We have already discussed all the things. Then I come to contingent contracts. As per section 31, contingent contract is a contract to do or not to do something if some events collateral to such does not happen. Now what is this? A contracts to sell B 10 bales of cotton for 20,000 if the ship by which they are coming returns safely. So this is a future. So if you say there is something, a future event upon which this contract is, okay, the contingent contract of insurance and contract of indemnity and guarantee are popular instances of contingent contract. Yes, contract means it is dependent upon an event in the future, okay, like guarantee. Now you must have heard about guarantee, banks, loans, guarantees, right? So here, say I give a loan to somebody, B. I give loan to B and I write in a contract, if B does not pay, then B's father has to pay me, right? So if B fails to pay me the money which I have lent, then B's father has to pay me. Now, event that B may or may not fail. So if B pays the money, then there is no question of B's father paying me the money, right? But if B fails to pay me the money, then B's father will have to pay the money to me. So this is what is called a contingent. It is dependent on a particular event. It may or may not happen. So if B pays me, it becomes so it is a contingent event. So if fine. But if B does not pay me, then B's father is going to pay me. And that's why if you see, contract of insurance and contract of indemnity and guarantee are popular instances of contingent contracts. That's what it is called as contingent. Yes, depending on something else in future, it may, like health insurance, right? We all take health insurance. We pay a premium to it. Now, the insurance may get invoked or not. If we fall ill, then you're going to pay, then the insurance company is going to pay the amount of the hospital bill. But if you don't get sick, the insurance company is not going to pay you anything. So that is what is contingent. Yes, contingent contracts are valid. So it is not like wagering agreements. Okay, contingent contracts are dependent on a particular event. So contracts of insurance are valid. Contracts of indemnity and guarantee are valid. Okay. Now we'll see what are quasi contract. A valid contract must contain certain acceptance, capacity to contract, consideration, and free consent. But sometimes the law implies a promise imposing obligations on one party and conferring right in favor of the other, or even there is no offer or acceptance, no consensus ad idem, and in fact there is neither agreement nor promise. So we all know this now. Now a quasi contract rests on equitable principle that a person shall not be allowed to enrich himself or at the expense of another. So this is called as a quasi contract. In truth, this is not a contract at all. It is an obligation which the law creates of unjust enrichment. A very simple illustration is money paid under mistake. So, for example, I pay you some money believing that you are B person, and that is not what it is. So, this is what is called as a quasi contract, that you have received the money by mistake from me. So, either ideally you should pay that money back to me because you know that I don't have to pay you the money, but you have received the money, uh, unfortunately from me, from my part. Unfortunate is on my part, fortunate is from your part. So ideally it is an unjust enrichment on your part, right? You have gained money which doesn't belong to you, should not have been paid to you, you is not being owed by me to you, but you have received that money. Now, ideally, you should pay that money back to me because there is an enrichment and that is unjust on your part. I didn't intend to, you have received that money from me. So, ideally, you should be paying that money back to me, saying that, yes, sorry, this was not my intention and you should not have received that money. So this is called as quasi contract. So now there is no contract between you and me, but you have unjustly enriched yourself by that money which is now in your bank account, and that's why you should be returning that money to me. So here, if you correlate now, a quasi contract rests on equity, that a person should not be allowed to enrich himself unjustly at the expense of another. Okay, so this is what is quasi contract. Now we are going to see discharge or termination of contracts. So discharge means what? The contracts gets over, or contracts in simple ways it is said contract ends. Simple manner. Okay. Now how can the contract end? It can be by discharge. Like you perform your part obligation, I perform my obligation. So I said that okay, I'll give you 500 rupees if you give me 10 books. You give me 10 books, I pay you 500 rupees. So the contract is discharged. The contract is over. Performances, contracts, mutual consent or agreement, lapse time. Now, operation by law, impossibility, and breach of contract. So these are the ways by which a discharge of contract takes place. Now, impossibility or frustration. So we are going to see what is breach and what is impossibility or frustration. So let me see how much we are left with. Okay, great. So if possible, we'll finish it, or if something gets spilled over, we'll take in the next session. A good question. There is one question: can doctrine of frustration be used for COVID-19? A very good question, Parv. A very good question. I just like that question because this is the most debated question in the current scenario which is going on, that whether doctrine of frustration can be invoked. And now I'm going to explain you what is doctrine of frustration for that matter. So section 32 and section 56 are the primary sections involved in the doctrine of frustration. So what is doctrine of frustration? When and how the courts have helped. So doctrine of frustrations, the courts have said that uh, if there is a total impossibility to perform a particular contract, then then of course the doctrine of frustration comes into picture. Just a moment. Yes. Yes. So doctrine of frustration is whenever there is a impossibility to perform. Okay. Now, for example, there is a playground, which is say a stadium, which is being kind. Oh, thank you so much, all of you. It's really to receive that. Please take care, ma'am. Thank you so much, and really appreciate that. Yes, I'll try to finish this since we are just left with 10 minutes. The extent possible, I'll definitely take. Okay. Doctrine of frustration is something that, like I'm telling you, if for example, I'll give you two examples. A has contracted with B to paint a particular picture. Now, B is a famous painter. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all your love and care. Thank you so much. So, A is having a contract with B that uh, B is a famous painter and B is going to paint a picture for A. Okay. Now, for example, if unfortunately B dies, did you get the example? A is contracted with B to make a painting, and B is a famous painter. Now, before that painting is being delivered to A, now what is going to happen to the contract? Here, the doctrine of impossibility comes into picture because this is a contract. This is a personal contract. Can B's son paint a picture and give to A? Can that be the case? No, that cannot be. The A is not going to accept it because B is a famous painter. B's son may not be that famous painter. So here, it is a personal contract, personal services. What we see. Only from that specified person you are expecting something. Here, the doctrine of impossibility or frustration is going to come into picture. I'll give you another example. There is a stadium for which the contract has been entered. Okay. And that stadium, there is a like Nisarga or any other cyclone or something like that. Okay. Something unusual happens over there, and the stadium is just gone in the water, okay, or it's just submerged and it is no more a subject matter, it's just gone down. Yeah, whether it can be the contract can be there. No, this is a frustration, this is an impossible, there is an impossibility. Now the stadium is no more. So the courts have been very particular that when this doctrine of impossibility or frustration is going to apply in the normal, so the courts have held generally that if there is an increase in the prices, like in the COVID scenario now, it is not this doctrine of impossibility or frustration because there is just now in the 2 months of lockdown, you are not able to deliver the goods. But is it impossible for you to perform? The answer is no. It's just delayed. It's just where you are not able to perform. It doesn't mean you will not be able to deliver the goods at any time, right? you will be able to deliver maybe at a high price, and the courts have held if it is for a high price, if it is for a if it is totally impossible, then only the courts have held that this doctrine can get invoked. But if it is with a higher price, if it is with an inconvenience, so generally, so there is a famous case where a particular if you have that case or not. So this Satyabharta Ghosh versus Mukduram is also a very famous case where if you see A offered, now what had happened if we just take this case, A undertook to sell the plot of land to B. But before the plot could be developed, war broke out and the land was temporarily requisitioned by the government. Now, I'll again help you with simple example. A wanted to develop a plot. So A is a builder. He wants to develop a particular plot. And A undertook to sell a plot of land B to B. The plot could be developed, war broke out. So there was a war, and that's why B could not develop. Now, what given some A offered to return earnest money to B in cancellation of the contract. So obviously there is some money which is being taken. So A said, okay, I'll give you that money back because there is a war which is broke out. And if you understand, whenever there is a war, the military takes the particular land or where they can have the base camps or they can have the boot camps or the artillery to be kept. So they may acquire temporarily for that particular time period the piece of land which may belong to you. Or the country is at war, so the government has all the rights because you don't know when the enemy is going to attack or they want to have some soldiers over there or anything depending upon what the military wants. So temporarily that plot was taken as, say, for example, a boot camp or for keeping the artillery of the military. Now, obviously, the person says, okay, I cannot develop this plot and I don't know how much time the war will continue or how much time the military is going to take that land. So you better take that money and let the doctrine of frustration apply. But what the courts held that, just to see, B did not accept and sued A for specific performance. Now, what is specific performance? Specific performance means no, you do that. I don't want money. So, for example, bought a and then later it was being denied by the seller that no, I want this plot. And I said, no, I want the same bungalow plot because it was essential for me. I'm wanting to make it as my residence. I don't want any other plot. I want the same plot. If you give me money, it's not going to help me. Even if you give me 5 crores because the locality, the where I'm staying, it is of importance to me. So if you give me money, it's not going to solve the problem because I may not get the same plot anywhere. I am interested in only buying the same plot. So here I may sue that person for specific performance. Specific performance means don't give me money, give me the same plot. As specific performance. So here the person was sued that no, do what is being told by you. Do what is being agreed by you. I don't want money. I want the same plot. So A pleaded frustration, doctrine of frustration. Now what? Now just mark here and we'll end the session over here today. The court held that Section 56 is not applicable on the ground that the requisition was of temporary nature. No time limit within which A was obliged to perform the contract. The impossibility was not of so nature which could strike at the root of the contract. So here the courts have held that it's just a temporary situation. The war is not going to go forever, or it is not going to that the government is going to requisition the land forever. So please, this is not a doctrine of frustration, and you have to complete the obligations which you have had entered into the contract. Now tell me, whether do you feel that the COVID scenario, can somebody really invoke this doctrine of frustration? Yes, the simple answer to is no. Obviously, if there are really certain circumstances then it's different. But ideally, in most of the scenarios, the court is going to reject the application of doctrine of frustration, because it is not like after 3 months we are out, right? We are there is an unlocked down also. So it is not that ultimately we are all into the restriction area. So here the courts are going to say in most probable situation that no, this is not doctrine of frustration which is applicable. It is not impossible for you to perform. 2 months, yes, but not after. It's a temporary situation. Okay, the person cannot claim damages for that, because if a contract was for to complete within 2 months and there is a lockdown, and if you don't complete, then the other party is going to sue you for damages. The court may say, okay, damages may not be possible, government intervention. But can you invoke doctrine of frustration? The answer may not be yes, because it is not an impossible thing to perform the contract. So this is a very, especially in this COVID scenario which is being discussed, and I want you to read all this with reference to that. So today I'll end the session over here. We'll continue with breach of contract and the remaining. And please do the logical reasoning thing which I had given you for homework. Okay. So yes, thank you so much, and thank you for all your care which you are showing me. Okay. Take care. Bye bye. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.